How's it going, everyone? OnlineBookclub.org. I'm Adam Mangiavani here with another live interview with an author. Now today I'm here with Rob White. He's the Book of the Month author for January, and he's the author of And Then I Met Margaret. Now he's going to tell you all about the book. I'm not going to go into that just yet. However, let me tell you something about Rob. Rob is one of the most colorful, interesting characters I've had the pleasure of talking to. He has so much knowledge. So for the next 15-20 minutes, however long this video is, just listen to him. This guy really has a lot to offer, so let's get right into it. Hey Rob, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks so much for hopping on the call. I appreciate it. But now let's get into you as an author and your book. So, obviously, you're a writer. Now, let's start from the beginning and when you were growing up. Did you always want to be a writer? Is this something that happened recently? Tell me a bit about your writing history.
Well, as a writer, I'm 73 with the passion of a 23-year-old. That's my greatest gift to myself, my passion. I didn't start writing until I was in my late 60s.
Oh, wow.
So when I was born in a small mill town, destined to work in a factory like my dad and my dad's dad and my dad's dad's dad.
Wow.
But I had a calling. I got a tugging, I call it. And so what happened is my book, And Then I Met Margaret, is one of the many everyday, ordinary, unassuming gurus who passed my way to guide me to higher living, higher levels of living.
Wow. So let's get into And Then I Met Margaret. So when did you have the idea to write this book? Was this something that's been, all these thoughts have been coming for a while, or did it just hit you one day?
It hit me one day 5 years ago or so. I'm a Horatio Alger story. Do you know who Horatio Alger was?
No, I don't.
All right, that was a rags to riches story back in the 30s. So I'm a simple guy who was born in a small mill town who has made tens of millions of dollars in the real estate industry and the restaurant industry. And people asked me constantly, tell me your secret. From that came my book, And Then I Met Margaret. The book is talking about what it takes to break through and dream bigger and occupy those dreams and then dream bigger still. What makes the book different than other books is it's not a self-help book. It doesn't preach. It shares my life in a humble way because I get anything I did, anyone can do. It offers opportunities for transformation.
Wow.
In the very reading of the book, I have had hundreds of people tell me, and if you go to my book on Amazon, the over 100 reviews I have, I speak in an easy, gentle way that have people dare to truly look at themselves, sometimes for the first time, and make changes. Though, you see, Adam, I believe you have to die daily in order to rebirth yourself into something grander.
Wow.
So that you can experience even more and more of the beauty of life.
Wow.
I believe that life supports you so much that it is ever and always offering you every day, unassuming, ordinary gurus who give you a tip for what is necessary for you to take your life right now to the next level.
Wow.
In my book, I give you 21 short, interesting accounts, stories of things that happened to me, that had me resurrect. I think I want to use that word.
Wow.
That I am within me, that just loves living and loves taking on challenges and loves just having breakthroughs and breakthroughs and breakthroughs.
Wow.
And in my book, I explain 21 of those very ordinary gurus who came to me. They don't know they're gurus, Adam. They just come to you and share some insight or lesson in the moment.
Okay.
And it does not have to be a human being. Just yesterday, walking around the Jamaica Pond with Shakespeare, my parrot of 35 years on my shoulder, I watched the dog harassing a swan, and the swan was my guru. The swan ignored the dog. and the dog was so confused and anxiety-ridden that this swan would not acknowledge him as he barked at the water's edge and ran back and forth trying to get a reaction. And I realized how many people are barking at my water's edge, the water's edge of my mind, running back and forth trying to get my attention. Those people that I really don't want to give attention to because I'm up to something bigger than that soap opera. So there's an example of just yesterday, life supporting me always, giving me an example of an everyday, ordinary, unassuming guru, a calm and peaceful swan who's not going to buy into the soap opera and the drama of the barking dog.
Wow. Okay, so let me ask you something here. So, and then I met Margaret. You're telling me it's not a book that's going to say, okay, do this and you'll be happy. It's explaining your story and the story of, you said, 21 gurus who have come to you in your life. So when other people read this, they have to put themselves in your situation. They can't just say, okay, what do I do? They have to learn from the experiences you've had and the experiences they've had, correct?
Yeah, you've pretty nearly hit the nail on the mark.
Okay.
When you read my stories reported back to me by many readers, it's so easy to put yourself into the situation. You just say, wow, that's just like me. Wow, that's just... Now, I don't believe I had the intention. That is a gift that was bestowed upon me in the writing of the book that occurred.
Okay.
And the result is, with each story, many people have said to me, oh, your 13th story about this or that or the other thing, did that ever strike home? And everyone says to me, what I love most about the tips you give is that you're not preachy. You're talking about these tips helped you get ahead. And it's easy for me to say, wow, I should probably think of using that tip in my own life. And that's where the transformation. See, I believe that the I am that you are at every moment, Adam, allows you to live the life that you're living. And only when you're willing to die of the I am that you are and expand into a grander I am of yourself, which is ever and ever infinitely expandable, only then do you get to go from being me 17 years as a Boston school teacher, quitting and announcing to myself, keep it a secret, not to the world, I want to become a millionaire. And I'm not going to become I've never heard of a Boston school teacher becoming a millionaire teaching school in Boston. I loved teaching. I've enjoyed it tremendously. Who was the guru who gave me the courage? Debbie. It's in this book. She came to me, one of my students, and said to me, Mr. White, how can I think I'm smarter than I believe I am? And I remember thinking, wow, now that is an interesting question, Debbie. How smart do you believe you are? Mediocre. Is that good enough for you? No, because I want to go to Milton Academy and I want to get a scholarship because my family can't afford it. And I've got to be smarter than I believe I am to get in. So I said, well, let's take a look at it. And then we decided people who are smarter than she believes she is go to tutoring, stop smoking cigarettes after school and go in the library and study, get their homework in on time. That's what people do, Debbie, who are smarter than you believe you are. Why don't you try it out? Act as though you're that smart. Well, the following year, she wasn't in our school anymore. She should have been. Where is she? She's at Milton Academy. Oh, my God. And then I realized, Robert J. White, that's me.
Yeah.
How can I be more successful than I believe I can be? And I realized I've got to do as I helped Debbie to understand about her. I've got to start acting as though I am incredibly successful if I allow myself to be.
Wow.
And with that I went into the principal of the school and said, this is my last year. I'll be leaving. Now, you got to understand, Adam, 17 years in the system. My father said, you got to go see a psychiatrist. You have an incredible health plan. You have an incredible retirement plan. You're giving that up for some cockamamie idea that you're going to become a millionaire? Because I did share it with him.
Yeah.
And I said, yes. Why? because Debbie gave up being a mediocre student to go to Milton. And my father said, now that's the dumbest answer I ever heard. Adam, that's the smartest answer I, Robert J. White, ever heard. So that is an example. Of course, I give you the details of Debbie in the story of an everyday, ordinary, unassuming girl, one of my 8th grade students.
Wow.
Being my girl.
So by you helping her that day, X amount of years ago, you really helped yourself because the advice you gave her was the advice that you needed.
That's well spoken, Adam. What thou beest, thou seest. And I saw in her a young lady who could be anything she wanted to be. And in that moment, I got a glimpse of myself as someone who could be anything or anyone I wanted to be.
Got it. Wow. Robert,
So
that's amazing. That's phenomenal, though, that you... And this is what we see in a lot of people, and I'm 25, so I don't have the life experience, but I've seen people who give advice, and they give amazing advice, but they're so reluctant to take that advice themselves. So when you gave this advice to Debbie, and for you to turn it around and say, well, that's the advice I need, is really commendable.
Well, and what I want to share with you that's important in the book, Life is Always Supporting Each and Every One of Us, and the world is a mirror, ever reflecting back to you exactly what you're projecting outwardly. So if you want to know what you're imagining in your deepest of imaginings, just take a look around you. And at this point, I have beautiful homes on the East Coast, on the ocean, on the West Coast, on the ocean. I travel extensively. I have all the material things, which, by the way, is the least of the. I also share in the book that by age 50, I was very wealthy with a Ferrari. I was Boston's most eligible bachelor back then. Actually had such a silly thing.
Wow.
And you'd fundraisers, and they'd bid on a date for you for a fundraiser. But I was shallow. Adam, I was egocentric and shallow. And I knew something was missing. And that's when another girl had come to me. And of course, I'm not going to reveal all of them, but Margaret was a 7-year-old elementary school student. She was my guru.
Wow.
I knew her elementary school teacher as a friend when I was a teacher. I now had one of Boston's most popular restaurants, Devon on the Commons, it was called. It's not available. It's not there anymore. The one restaurant I did start that's still around, if people Google, is Davio's. I don't own it anymore. I sold out, but I was the founder of Davio's. There are many of them now. Well, Barbara, my friend, said, can I have a field trip and have my kids come through your restaurant? Of course, Bob. So she came down at 10 in the morning when the restaurant was closed, and I took them through the whole restaurant. And I was an arrogant, hoi polloi. I was Donald Trump in every way, shape, and form. I say that not disparagingly. I just say that clearly I was more caught up in myself than anything else. And after I took the kids through the whole restaurant, they sat at a table, and they had some nice cookies and milk, home restaurant-made chocolate chip cookies right there. Any questions, I said? And little Margaret raised her hand, and I thought, now, here's a brilliant young lady who has some questions she wants to ask me so she can grow and become successful. I said, yes, Margaret. And she stood up, and she flailed her dress wide open, and she said, do you like my new red dress? And in that moment, I got, oh, my God, she is so beautiful, so precious. She thought this whole trip was about her red dress, and it should be. It was such a beautiful red dress on her. But I'm 50, and I thought this whole field trip was about haughty me and my red dress, my fancy restaurant. When am I going to grow up? See, that's Margaret. And then I met Margaret. And my life went from being one of materialism to one of spiritualism. And everything started changing.
Wow. So all it took is this one little instance for your whole life to turn around. and I'm assuming each guru that you face and that you talk about in the book has a similar consequence, where it's you realizing something about yourself and either a change you have to make. And like I said, I'm sure every story varies, but every person you came in contact with taught you a different lesson that has turned you into the man you are today.
Everyone, and I'm human. When I got into University of Massachusetts from Athol, small little mill town, nobody goes to UMass from Athol. I thought you had to cheat. This is 50 years ago. I cheated. I had crib sheets, and I got caught. And Dr. Tucker, the professor, he was considered a toughie. He caught me, and I was going to be thrown out of college, cheating. How humiliating. And he called me into his office, and he said, Mr. White, you were cheating. Explain to me what you did. And I said, I had 5 crib sheets. It was an English lit course. And I had them in each pocket according to Shakespeare was one pocket, this one, this one. He said, it takes a lot of intelligence to write 5 crib sheets and then organize them in your pocket so you know where each one is, so you could pull it out and then put what was necessary from the crib sheet onto the test paper. My God, how intelligent you are, and what a fool you are. And I just looked and I teared, and I really teared. And then he said, you know what I'm going to do with you? And he threw the test back, another test booklet back. He said, you take the test again. He said, I want to see if you're smart enough to even pass it. So I took it again, and he corrected it right there. And he said, you know what, you got an A minus. You know what, I'm giving you a D. Oh. But you want to know what you would have got if you didn't cheat? He said, you know what you are, Mr. White? You are very intelligent, and you're a big fool. What a guru! And he said, you know what, we're going to leave this right here. Now, here's a guy everyone said, oh, no, you're done. This guy does not tolerate anything. You're thrown out, for sure. He said, we're going to leave it right here in the office, aren't we? And you're going to have learned a huge lesson, haven't you? Is that not a guru? Oh, my God. From that moment on, I never again did I think the only way to beat him is to cheat him. Never again did I think that.
Wow. So what I'm getting from you in just the 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes we've been talking, is that, and from the book, that everyone that you've met, every situation that you've faced, the people reading really have to put themselves in your shoes, because I feel like you saw these people in such a light, and it was probably way before your time. I know people my age and people younger than me might meet someone who gets pissed off at them for whatever reason, and they'll freak out, and they'll let their ego drive them forward because they'll be upset that this person upset them. But if you can look at it from whether it be a third party view or an objective way and say, okay, the person that's coming to me is someone that's going to teach me a lesson. How did you get to that point? How did you start looking at it as a lesson rather than let it hurt your ego if someone was getting pissed at you, like your professor or your teacher?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer to that is my uncle, when I was younger, he would say to me all the time, when he was teaching me a lesson, he would never claim it was about me. He'd tell me a story. And then he'd say, what's that got to do with you? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what my whole book is about, what my Uncle Fred taught me. I tell you 21 stories, and I don't say it, but I imply it, and most people catch on to it. Most readers then say, what's this got to do with me? Because it's easy to say that because I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at me. So it's easy for you to turn the magnifying glass on you. Mm-hmm. If I'm preaching in the book and giving you 7 steps to successful living, now I am pointing right at you, and you tend to get defensive.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So now, Rob, let's talk about your book, and if you were to give someone one reason to pick up your book and read, what would that be?
The one reason I would ask anyone to read my book is because it's all about you. You are a human being. You are going to fail your way to success. Nobody has ever just made every step forward accurate and absolutely on target. And that's the biggest lesson I believe. I show you 21, and there could be 21,000 examples of me failing my way forward. as long as I see my mistakes, mistakes, as mistakes, miss dash takes. That's what all life is about.
Wow.
Gurus are coming always your way to help you to pick up the megaphone after refining what you did and doing it again and saying, that's a take.
So, and then I met Margaret. For those of you watching, it has been reviewed and given such amazing ratings on all of the different book websites, Online Bookclub, Amazon, Goodreads. It's been raved about. That must be an amazing feeling for you, Rob. And I love talking to you for the last 20 minutes. Now, what's next for you? Obviously, you said you've traveled, you've done so much in your life. But what's next for you?
Well, I'm absolutely in love with being an author, book author. What's next for me is the book I'm writing now, which is Don't You Know Who You Are? That's the title of it. I love writing. I love writing in a way that's charming, interesting, and funny. I say not that arrogantly. That's something I've declared of myself. I'm charming, I'm interesting, and I'm funny. Anyone can declare any quality and then act as though it's so, and son of a gun, if within a couple of weeks, it's natural. So I love being an author. I love being charming and interesting and funny in what I write, and that's what's next for me right now.
I look forward to it. As soon as the book comes out, Rob, you got to come back on this show and talk more about it. I feel like you have so many different stories, but let's save that for the book. So for those of you watching, And Then I Met Margaret, available right now. Go out, read it. Rob, where could they find you on social media?
RobWhiteMedia.com is my website. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have over 290,000 followers who ask me questions, and I answer those questions. And it's RobWhiteMedia.com. Thank you for asking. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's almost like the old Dear Abby. People ask me questions, and I answer them in my own profound way.
Wow. So great, guys. Connect with Rob. Read his book. Rob, thank you so much for hopping on call with me. We'd love to have you on the show in the future. And I can't wait to continue to read your stories and hear more about your life.
Thank you, Adam. You're great.
No problem at all, Rob. Have a great Friday.
Adios.
Take care. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Rob. I know I did. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Last week's User of the Week was you. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to be next week's User of the Week, tell me who's an author you want to see me interview next. I'll see you guys next Thursday.